So my name is Roshan Heiler, and I work for the German non-governmental organization Solvodi, which stands for Solidarity with Women in Distress. I've been working for them for 6 years now, being head of a counseling center which assists women affected by prostitution and those affected by trafficking in human beings. And one of the most important areas of work is to do outreach in the red light districts in the different cities in Germany. That means there could be brothels, this can be street prostitution or apartments. I think that Comisión Unidos is doing an incredible, great job. What I see is a difference or an obstacle that we may not have to face in the same intensity as Mexico does is corruption and the involvement of politicians in profiting from prostitution, trafficking human beings for sexual exploitation. I think this is a very difficult obstacle to take, and this needs work on many different levels. In Germany has been legal for a long time, but in 2002 a law was passed which said that prostitution is not immoral anymore. So what became possible is that there's a legal contract between the prostituted person and the client, for example, and that she could sue for her payment in court. So the law had some aspects which would enforce the rights of persons in prostitution, but at the same time, what the law did not cover is that most persons in prostitution in Germany are migrants. And we have the problem that a lot of the law doesn't apply to that group, and that the migrant prostitutes don't know about the law, and in consequence don't know about their rights. We have the law enforcement in Germany said that trafficking for sexual exploitation is taking place in brothels, in apartments, in the streets, in those spaces where prostitution is legal. And this is telling us that trafficking is not taking place in hidden spaces, but in front or in establishments which are supported by the government. So there is a direct link between trafficking and prostitution. You have the establishment, you have the brothel, which is legal, which is there, and inside this brothel, a victim is exploited, is being victim of human trafficking for sexual exploitation. The traffickers are using the infrastructure, the legal infrastructure. When a victim of trafficking is identified, we have different means and also governmental support in order to assist them. Health-wise, money-wise, she will be able to go into a shelter and take, there is a reflection period, and that time she can decide whether she wants to testify against the traffickers or not. So the legal framework in some parts is very good, but it has weaknesses, and one of the weaknesses from the law enforcement is that the testimony of the victim is always necessary in order to open a case. But at the same time, the testimony is the most difficult and the most weakest part in the case to get, because a victim has a lot of obstacles to overcome in order to testify, because most of the traffickers know where her family lives, and they threaten the family members back home in the home country. And these are the reasons why the victims prefer not to testify. But this also means that we don't have cases. So what we would like to see is a change in the law, that not only the testimony of the victim is necessary to open a case, but that there's other evidence being collected in order to follow the traffickers. Well, this is what we would like to see. It's not in place yet. The whole process is still very much like whether a case is opened or not, or it's successful or not, depends very much on whether a victim has testified or not. In Germany, it's the most important evidence is the testimony of the victim. But we see that how difficult for a victim it is to testify against a trafficker, because it is dangerous. She's facing dangers. The trafficker most of the time knows family members of the victim in the home country, and there's almost no possibility to protect them, the family members. So the trafficker, as soon as the victim testifies with the police, the traffickers will get informed about this. And in this case, he will start threatening her. He will say, okay, either you go to the police and you take back your testimony, or we will threaten we will do, most of the time we will burn the house of your parents. So this is the threat. And then, because they are afraid, and it's an easy thing to do, to burn down a house. So the victim says, okay, I go to the police and I will take back my testimony. So we have these cases many times. And what we would like to see in Germany is that we move away from the testimony of the victim being one of the most important proofs to giving the law enforcement more possibilities to look for other evidence, such as, phone taping, hidden investigations. But all this needs, of course, a lot of resources, and it also needs some changes in the law. But putting the victim in the center of the whole case is psychologically extremely heavy for the victim, because you also have to remember that from testifying against the trafficker until going to court, a long time can go by until the law enforcement has other evidence. In Germany, sometimes it takes up to 2 years. Up to 2 years. And this is a very long period for a victim to endure the psychological pressure, and at the end not even knowing whether there will be a trial or the trafficker will be sentenced. So this whole process in putting the victim in the center for proving as one of the most important evidences is extremely difficult and painful for the victims, and this is our experience. Well, we had, I think in the past years, it's always between 500 and 600 cases that the cases that are opened by the law enforcement for trafficking for sexual exploitation. They're all closed, all those cases are closed, but I can't tell you exactly what the sentences on average are. The forum is great. It gives us so many different perspectives. It's so enriching. And the people who are invited, this is a great network that is opening up for us to exchanging views and exactly also exchanging different experiences. So we can learn from each other. If you say here the law is going to change maybe to put the victim in the center of the case, so I can tell you what our experiences are about this. And I think this is extremely enriching. This is what is happening in all different areas.